Okay, good evening, forex traders. How was your weekend? Hope your weekend went well. Hope you have been able to backtest your strategy. Welcome to another weekly analysis. We do this every week. We analyze the peers in the forex market. We make sure we do the analysis. Now let's start with the first pair, euro, before we move to. Let's start with the euro and if you look at the euro now, we can see that it's sitting at this demand zone, like we analyzed previously, and euro has been able to form a lower part of this previous low. So that's what we can see for euro on the weekly time frame. Now, going to the daily time frame, what can we see? Now we can see that euro is on a demand zone for the daily. And after making this low, what do we expect? We expect euro to retrace upwards a little bit. Now, if we go to the 4 hour, because we're going to be fast about this, we can see that the euro is gradually moving to the upside. So we may see some strength in the euro. That's what we have for euro. Now let's move to the USD. What can we see? Looking at the weekly time frame. Now, if you look at the weekly time frame, we see that we just made a low and we are coming towards this supply zone over here, this big supply zone because it's weekly. Now, what can we see? We'll see that on the daily that we've been able to tap into the supply zone. But personally, I would like to see price move up a little bit before any further drop. Now, if we move to the 4 hour, you see that price just made this retracement, and we may still see price come a little bit lower, maybe to this point. Okay, price has been able to touch this point, so we may see price coming lower or just move up from here, but I won't be shocked to see price coming lower to this place before moving up. Now that's what we have for the USD. Now let's quickly move to the GPB, the Great Pound, Great British Pound. Now, from what we can see on the weekly, what can we see? We've formed a low, but there was a break in market structure here, so we have another demand zone towards this area. So what do we expect? We expect price to move up before coming down. And if you look at it carefully, we can see that price is in a demand zone. But let's go to the daily. Now, looking at the daily, what do we expect? Now, from the daily, we can see that price came down, broke structure here, came down, and also since it has broken structure and has come up to this extent, now it is a little bit dicey. Now, if we are going to see a bullish Great British Pound, we should expect a move to the upside, then retrace. Else, we may just respect this zone here, which is a supply zone, and move downwards further. Now, both of them is definitely possible, but let's see what the 4 hour is telling us. Now, if you look at the 4 hour carefully, I see that we are drawing close to a demand supply zone on the 4 hour. So I won't be shocked if we see a reaction at this particular point. Maybe we may go down a little bit and break structure to the upside, or we may come to this place and fall to the downside. Any of the two is possible on GBP. Now let's quickly check Swiss franc on the weekly. Now what do we have on the weekly? On the weekly, we can see that we made a push to the upside and we still came back to tap our weekly demand zone. But if you go to what's it called, the daily, you notice that the daily is moving upwards, trending upwards gradually. And we've tapped on this demand zone, so we expect higher movement. Now, if we go to the 4 hour, you will notice that price broke structure by this point, and that means that we are changing from the bearish market to a bullish market. So we can expect further movement to the upside. Now, how the movement to the upside will come, I may not be able to tell you because I don't own the market. but we expect a little bit of what's it called? What was it called? We expect a little bit of retracement possible. Then maybe we move to the upside, but we are still expecting a retracement so that price might come to respect this zone here and or any of this zone here, then move to the upside. That's what we have for the Swiss franc. Now let's move to the JPY, the Japanese yen. Now if you look at the Japanese yen on the weekly time frame, what can we see? Now we've been falling downwards, but you will see that we respected a demand zone here. So on coming to the daily, what can we see? Demand zone tapped at, so we may expect price coming down to this demand zone before a movement to the upside. Now if we look at it on the 4 hour, we can see that we are in a very good demand zone. So what do we expect? We expect price to come in a little bit to tap into the demand zone before moving higher. Now let's go to the CAD, the Canadian dollar. Now looking at the Canadian dollar on a weekly time frame, we can see that we are very close to a supply zone, and with the look of things, I expect us to break this zone before maybe falling to the downside. I expect us to break that zone. So what can we see? So people say we have supply here, but I won't be shocked if we break this zone before falling to the downside. Now, if you look at the 4 hour, what can we see on the 4 hour? I see that we've been seriously bullish, and I will not be surprised if we break this zone here, break it to the upside before falling to this particular place to take a buy to the upside. So we may just see price break through this supply zone before moving downwards. Now on the odd, that's the Australian dollar, what can we see? Now on the weekly time frame, we can see that the Australian dollar just came into a demand zone. So what do we expect? We expect that price will move to the upside. Now on the daily, what can we see? Now we can see that there's a break in market structure already. So we're expecting price to continue to move to the upside. Now on the 4 hour, what can we see? Now on the 4 hour, you can see that price just broke to make a higher high. So I won't be shocked seeing price make a higher low before moving to the upside to break this previous structure. Now that's what we have for the Australian dollar. Now let's check the last pair for this week, which is the New Zealand dollar. Now if we go to the weekly time frame, what can we see? Now we can see that price has made a higher low. So we may expect that price will come down to this supply, the demand zone, come down to this demand zone before moving upwards. But what do we see on the daily? Now on the daily, we can see that this was the previous low. We went up, created a low, but break the structure here. So I might not be surprised to see price create a reaction, a positive reaction from here, and just come to the downwards side and go to the upward side. Now on checking the 4 hour, what can we see? Now we can see on the 4 hour time frame we are still melting to the downside. So I won't be surprised to see price coming downwards to tap into this place before moving upwards. Now these are the analyses that I have so far for the pairs we have in the market. Okay, let me see. Maybe I can check on what's it called? Gold. Let me see if I can check on gold. Okay, now what can we see on weekly for gold? Because I know that must be some interest to some people. Higher low, high, and we broke to the downside. And the next supply zone for the weekly is this particular place. Now we can also mark this place. One of them should be respected. But price are tapping into the weekly, so we may expect a melting to the downside. Now what can we see from this place? Now we just tapped into the supply zone and we are moving to the downward side. So I will not be surprised to see price react from this point this point or this point before moving to the downside. Now on the 4-hour time frame, what can we see? On the 4-hour time frame, we can see that we just hit a supply zone here, so I won't be shocked to see price move downwards. But if price would like to be bullish, we may come to this particular place so that a lot of people who are intending to sell from here would have been stopped out before selling the market. So if you enjoy this analysis, please kindly like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Share with your friends so that they can be able to get um, a powerful information like this and they can be enlightened. Thank you very much. See you next week.